You're never gonna believe it. He showed up. He showed up. He showed up. Wait. It's The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
AEW's emergence was more than just the birth of a new wrestling promotion. It was a rebellion that shook the very foundation of the wrestling industry. The wrestling world, for years, had languished under WWE's iron grip, but AEW arrived like a shot of adrenaline to the heart of a dying scene. A revitalizing force fueled by rebellion, independence, and the promise of raw, untamed wrestling. The very existence of AEW wasn't merely a challenge to WWE's dominance, it was a mirror that forced WWE to confront everything it had become. In this mirror, WWE saw its own complacency reflected back at it. The watered-down entertainment product, the focus on optics rather than authenticity, the slow erosion of wrestling's soul. Every AEW show that prioritized wrestling quality over brand synergy or spectacle highlighted how far WWE had strayed from its roots. WWE doubled down on a sanitized corporate vision, sacrificing authenticity for marketability, opting for polished packaging over raw passion. Even when AEW stumbled, its flaws reflected ambition, an eagerness to try new things and push boundaries. WWE's stagnation, by contrast, became indefensible. The damage wasn't immediate, but it was systemic, a gradual unraveling of WWE's cultural capital that would eventually reach a tipping point. AEW sparks passion in the lapsed fandom. AEW's early success reignited a passion that had been dulled by WWE's years of creative indifference. These weren't just casual fans. They were the heartbeat of wrestling fandom, the diehards who had once filled arenas during the Attitude Era, who had cheered, screamed, and bled during the days of ruthless aggression. But now, they saw something real again, something that felt unprocessed, raw, and unsanitized, a wrestling product that wasn't filtered through the lens of corporate interests. And this shift wasn't lost on WWE. It wasn't just about AEW's rising ratings or the fervor it was stirring in the fanbase. It was a deeper, more philosophical shift, one that exposed WWE's hollowness. AEW didn't just present wrestling, it embodied the spirit of wrestling. And with every authentic moment AEW delivered, WWE's carefully manufactured product seemed more and more like a hollow shell of what it could have been. The chants in WWE arenas changed. The familiar CM Punk chants weren't just a call for the man himself. They became a battle cry, a symbol of rebellion. WWE couldn't silence those voices because, in the age of AEW, those voices had no imitations, a response without conviction. In an attempt to compete with AEW's more daring, unpredictable style, WWE made desperate attempts to pivot. They brought back stables, teased shoot-style promos, and blurred the lines between reality and fiction. But everything felt empty. These weren't genuine changes. They were attempts to copy AEW's spirit without understanding the philosophy behind it. WWE was playing dress-up, donning the trappings of rebellion without embracing what made it meaningful. It was embraced backstage drama, unscripted moments, and the kind of unpredictability that had made wrestling feel like an art form rather than an entertainment product. WWE, on the other hand, from the wrestlers themselves. Fans could see the difference. The energy in WWE's arenas began to shift. What was once the home of the loudest and most passionate fans became a place where the creative erosion was palpable. The rot of WWE's developmental pipeline. At the heart of WWE's downfall lay its developmental pipeline. Where once WWE had prided itself on poaching the best indie talent and shaping them into stars, that strategy began to backfire in the AEW era. The likes of Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, once celebrated indie stars, were stripped of their identities and repackaged with gimmicks that no one had asked for. The result was dissonance, a glaring mismatch between what these wrestlers were capable of and what WWE was willing to let them be. The talent wasn't the problem. WWE's restrictive creative vision was. By contrast, AEW became the dream destination for wrestlers who wanted to retain their individuality. AEW's backstage environment, while far from perfect, offered freedom, an atmosphere where wrestlers could breathe, experiment, and grow. That freedom wasn't without its flaws, but it also led to some of the most magical moments in wrestling. Eddie Kingston, with his raw, unfiltered promos, didn't just cut a wrestling promo, he with fans. And Bryan Danielson, once a cog in WWE's machine, shed his manufactured persona and became something primal, something more real than anything he'd been allowed to be before. In the AEW era, every time a wrestler was allowed to be themselves, WWE's carefully crafted superstars seemed more like hollow corporate creations. WWE's obsession with moments, those meticulously planned WrestleMania spectacles, began to ring hollow. AEW didn't engineer moments, they earned them. Fans knew the difference. They could feel the difference. Cody Rhodes' return, a symbol of AEW's cultural shift. The return of Cody Rhodes to WWE after his departure from AEW should have been a cultural victory for WWE, but instead, it highlighted the growing divide between what AEW had cultivated and what WWE was still trying to maintain. Cody's presence in WWE was an embodiment of AEW's indie ethos crashing headfirst into WWE's finely tuned machine. Over time, it became clear AEW had redefined what it meant to be a main event player, and WWE couldn't keep up. Even Roman Reigns, once WWE's golden child, began to feel like a byproduct of timing rather than vision. The Bloodline saga, which had started as a fresh and dynamic narrative, dragged on long past its expiration date. AEW had made the art of self-contained dynamic stories exciting again, while WWE clung to one storyline for years, choking the life out of everything around it. WWE's failed talent management and creative strategy. Even WWE's victories began to feel like Pyrrhic ones. When Jade Cargill and Brian Pillman Jr. signed with WWE, it was framed as a sign of AEW's mismanagement. But the truth was more complex. WWE didn't know what to do with these talents either. Jade, a powerful force in AEW, became just another brand experiment in WWE. Pillman, with his legacy, was reduced to a mere cog in WWE's machine, with little room to grow or evolve. WWE's creative machine was so focused on optics that it forgot how to build from the ground up. In contrast, AEW's mid-card mattered. The TNT Championship had prestige, tag teams were prioritized, and every wrestler felt like they had the chance to carve out their own legacy. WWE's secondary titles, by contrast, bounced between the shift in fan culture, from resignation to rebirth. The fan culture shifted irreversibly. AEW reignited debate and passion, creating a discourse that wrestling fans hadn't seen in years. WWE, on the other hand, became the subject of resignation. Even those who continued watching did so not out of love, but out of habit. The tribalism between the two promotions wasn't just toxic, it was telling. Fans weren't defending WWE because it was good. They were defending it because they were afraid to believe in something better. But a product that felt real, that had heart, and that could tell meaningful stories. WWE's slow erosion of spirit had created a vacuum, and AEW filled it. Long road ahead, WWE's strategic rebuild. To regain control of the wrestling landscape, WWE must reframe itself not just as a content factory, but as a place where wrestlers are refined, not repackaged. The independent pipeline must be reclaimed, not by copying AEW's indie cred, but by offering a place for indie talent to flourish within a structured system that still allows for creativity and individuality. WWE's sheer volume of content is a strength, and if used correctly, it can become a dominant force in wrestling storytelling. AEW's struggle is its bloated roster and lack of long-term narrative direction. WWE must embrace long-form, structured storytelling that spans across its various brands, creating a wrestling saga that AEW simply cannot match. Finally, WWE must intensify its global expansion, not with temporary tours, but with permanent branded territories across the world. AEW remains heavily North American in structure, and WWE can turn that to its advantage by becoming the wrestling company that fans everywhere recognize first. By planting flags in places like Japan, Mexico, Germany, and the UK, WWE can suffocate AEW and establish itself as the first name in global wrestling.